1,000 planned as a part of our budget. This program is providing environmental and infrastructure improvement that will significantly improve residential and employment areas for our borough and in the district centres as well. We have opened 3 new libraries in the last 3 years, and they are all being used well. We are transforming our leisure centres, offering quality facilities at an affordable price with free swimming for under 16, and our proposal, this is in a budget, for free swimming for over 50, which would make it over 50% of our residents would have a free swimming if that all goes through. At the time when most councils are cutting back, we are building and refurbishing all our secondary schools. Our Telford loyalty card has been a huge success, encouraging more people than ever to get active and to shop locally. More than 68,000 people have registered, and we have launched the TLC app, which allows people to take their card with them on their phone. Already over 500 people have downloaded this app. We have launched a new curbside recycling scheme. The new purple top bin have been in use for the last 6 months, and household recycling has increased by almost 14%. The biggest increase for many years, thus saving thousands of pounds for all of us in a landfill site. So we wouldn't have to pay so much landfill site, and thank you very much for all those people who are doing the extra recycling. In the next few weeks, we will hear finally whether hard work by the officers and this administration to protect jobs at Donington will bear fruit. The future of hundreds of jobs and around 60 million pounds a year for the local economy will hang on the outcome of this announcement. While we don't know if we have been successful in securing the future MOD logistic hub for Telford, we can be sure that without the effort of this council, which began in summer of 2011, Telford would not even be in race. Whatever the MOT's decision, we can say with certainty that we have done everything we can to help make the strongest case possible for this borough and for our local economy. Okay, I nearly finished now. The cost of living continues, and many of our residents have not had any pay rise for a number of years, and because we recognize the financial pressure of our residents, we are committed to freezing the council tax again for the next year and the year after. I've got a lot more, but my time is out now, and thank you very much.
Councillor Hota, thank you. Item 5, Mayor's announcements. Councillor Malcolm Smith, who's going to update us on events attended since we last met in November.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You've all got a list, of course, in your agenda of the events that I've attended, and there are some 31 that I've actually attended since November. And there is a number which my deputy has attended as well, and I do thank him for making himself available to represent me at those different functions. What I can say is that over the Christmas period, when moving around the area, it's surprising the number of Christmas lunches and Christmas dinners that you are partaking of. And once again, when it came to Christmas Day in my own home, we decided we'd go down to my son's, because I knew he wasn't having turkey. So, but over this period of time, I then had a week off, which is marvellous. Anyone who's been mayor of this authority will know to get a week off takes some doing. But I did manage to get a week off, and I felt lost because you're that used to putting the chain on and coming out to a car. But while we've pursued these duties, I've taken the opportunity to represent, I hope, the borough in your name, and I'd say I do thank those elected members when I moved into the wards for whatever was going on, for their support to me when I got there. I also spent 3 days going round the council offices in the town centre and down at operational services. And those 3 days for my Christmas charity raffle raised approximately £500. And I do thank the members of staff, and where I could, members of the authority who I caught in the corridors, I do thank you very much for buying tickets for it. So I look forward. Now we're back in harness, and I've got in my diary up till the 13th of March at the moment, and I know my deputy doesn't necessarily know what is off, but I can assure him you are going to be busy, sir. But that's my report to the council.
Just before we leave it there, you were saying to me earlier that you needed to mention particular visits, because if you didn't mention it, you'd get into trouble. And you did mention it.
Yes, well, thank you.
I don't want you to get into trouble.
I did actually go to an invitation to Rockwood Ironwood C of E school, and some of our members are on the board of governors there, and can I say that there's no mistake that those children were a credit not only to the teaching staff but to the governors, because the way they made us welcome. And lo and behold, in the post today, in the council offices, came a cheque in appreciation of me going down there. And I spoke to the children about being able to read, learning, how important it was in life to be able to read and write. And they sat there, all these children sitting cross-legged on the floor. I will say enthralled by what I got to say, but they were certainly paying attention. And when I went into the office today, Emma Price, the Member Services Secretary, turned around and said, "Mr. Mayor, we've had another check-in for your appeal." And would you believe it? That was for £500 as well. Now, I've had a word with one of the governors from the school, asked her to convey my thanks to them, but I will be writing and thanking them formally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Item 6, public questions, none received. We go straight to item 7, cabinet decisions made since the last meeting of the council. This is Appendix C, for those following, which is the white pages, pages 5 to 8. And invite the leader to invite any cabinet members to comment only on those matters covered in Appendix C. Councillor McClements.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, there's 6 reports against my name, so I'd like to come up and talk about financial monitoring and the service and financial report, the budget.
Fine, thank you.
I'll cover financial monitoring first. With 3 months to go, revenue spending is projected to be under budget by 2.8 million. With 3 million of the contingency remaining, that is 3.1 million better than 3 months ago. 260,000 and 750,000 of this will be used as additional funding for the Community Pride Fund and Capacity Fund of the Council. That leaves 1.8 million, which along with the 3 million contingency, will be used for next year's budget 2015-16. So that's all I'll say on that, and if you like, I'll carry on and say something about the budget. The budget report, this council will be delivering 70 million of savings by April this year, and we will be delivering 79 million of savings by April next year. I point out to you the heat map in the report that went to Cabinet on the first Thursday of the month clearly shows that Telford and Wrekin's funding has been cut more than our near neighbours, and the cuts are being greater here. It also clearly shows how the Tory-led government has cut funding to Labour-controlled councils much more than Tory councils, looking at themselves as normal. Despite this, Wrekin Council is delivering effective frontline services, creating jobs and growth, as you heard earlier, 13.2% growth in the economy in 3 years, and that is the UK average. Unemployment is falling faster. The figures show that youth unemployment actually reduced more than half in 12 months, something we invested in. The main proposals for our consultation are freezing council tax for the next 2 years, delivering jobs and growth, 1 million to promote our high streets and local centres, 750,000 on environmental investment programme, 1 million on a community pride fund in 2017-18, as well as continuing with the second year of the present one that was passed last year. 6 million extra in roads over and above the government funding. And, you know, I do aside here that the government announced we were getting 18 million funding over 6 years for the roads and told us that was a great deal. Well, I checked out, in the last 6 years we got 23.8, so the 18 million was a significant cut. And then I asked the next question, how much tax does the government collect in road funds and fuel tax in Telford and Wrekin a year? And it's 88 million. So in 6 years they will collect over £500 million in taxes for the vehicles and giving us 18 million off it. That's 4% for the roads and telling us a good deal. So I think people should reflect on that. We're also spending 650,000 for regeneration St George's, 200,000 in free swimming for over 50s. This is for a 4-year programme. 250,000 on Destination Telford, 30,000 to support food banks, 240,000 on crisis support and cheap loans, despite this Tory government cutting all funding for next year and the year after. Continue with the second year of a youth employment programme and investing 4 million to improve broadband coverage and quality of coverage in Telford and Wrekin. Mr. Speaker, I'll leave it there and go back to my seat and take questions.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Just to remind members, we're on item 7, Cabinet decisions made since the last meeting. Any questions, particularly for Councillor McClements at this stage? None? Any other Cabinet members, Leader, who wish to comment with regards to decisions made since the last meeting? No? Oh, Councillor Hoskin.
So does that stop councillors asking a question at that particular point with regards to anything to a Cabinet member that hasn't risen to the floor to express anything about his Cabinet?
If it relates to pages 5 to 8, White, that is acceptable, Councillor. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's no problem about that. But would you use the microphone? I know you may feel you need it, Councillor Hoskin, but there are people who can't hear you if they're watching this.
I might not like what I hear coming through.
Well, we could all pass judgment on that. But if you could use the microphone, I'd be grateful.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a question through your good self to Charles Smith, Cabinet member. Sir, does the Cabinet member think it right by local governance to give Wellington in regeneration £180,000 with provisos, but give St George's 600,000 for a derelict building?
Councillor Charles Smith to respond.
Mr. Speaker, I think Miles is trying to put two different subjects together. The regeneration of the St George's project is totally separate, and it should go to Bill McClements, that part, but it's a totally separate part. The regeneration of Wellington, as you can recall, has had a lot of money spent on it over the past 5, 6, 7 years, and we are continuing to do that, but we are working in conjunction with the Wellington Town Council to lead it, and a little tongue up the two together. One is regeneration on that, one is a specific building.
Thank you. Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine's a similar type of question. Charles has partially answered it. Obviously, he was, I think, anticipating what I might say, because when I read reports which are headed up Wellington regeneration, I asked the question, what's 8.5 million? Is that a regeneration? That's what this administration spent on Wellington to completely revitalise what was a dying town. I agree that there is things more to do, so I don't say anything about that, but I would like people to recognise the amount of money that this administration put in after debating long and hard with public meetings and actually raising another $500,000 on top of the original 8 million to make it what people wanted. And I think we're all proud of what we achieved in that area. So I'd just like some recognition. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to take that as a comment, not a question. You didn't. That's not. You've said that when you sat down. It wasn't what you said. We'll take that as a comment, and it's noted. Thank you very much. Any other questions, please? Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is on the housing investment business case. As a councillor, and considering the amount of money we're borrowing and what we're doing here, I'd like somebody to give me some confidence that those that are involved in the setting up of the wholly owned company have the relevant skills and knowledge in which to do so.
Thank you. Who's responding to that, please?
It's a good one, so I'd probably invite Councillor Bentley to come and give me some advice. Obviously, he's a bit of an expert. I'm enjoying an hour with you, Steve. I mean, the investment programme, I'm doing the figures off the top of my head, but I think you know, the plan is 6.7 million investment by the council in just land that has been undeveloped for many years, including the 4 years you're in power, 8 brownfield sites, and if you look at that over the 30-year period, that will generate 89 million of wealth for this borough, 41 in increased asset value, and 48 million in revenue for 6.7 million. That's a very good case. And some in your party have said, why don't we sell the land to the private sector? If you sold that 6.7 million, if you could sell it, would bring in less than 350,000 a year, and for 30 years that would bring in you 10.5 million. I'll back the 89 million for that investment, not the 10.5. That's what we're doing. I have every confidence in the officers to set up the company. I'm confident of the structures, and it's already been through Cabinet and through Council, and I am totally behind it and support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dugmore. Stand up, please, Councillor Bentley.
With all due respect, Mr. Speaker, I wasn't after figures, I was after the credentials.
You asked your question, and it's very nice of you to say with all due respect, but with all due respect, you asked your question, that's the answer.
But it wasn't an answer, I had a breakdown, didn't I?
Councillor Dugmore has a question. Thank you. If you'd be seated, Councillor Dugmore has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is also regarding the housing investment programme. Can the relevant Cabinet member please explain the difference between renting a home from the council and renting a home from a company wholly owned by the council?
Councillor Sean Davis, you responding? Yep.
I'll pick this up. I'm jointly responsible for the report along with Bill McClement. The simple difference is that the housing account, which the council previously had, is a separate entity. It also, if there's a housing account, a housing property which is subject to that housing account, subject to the right to buy is available. In terms of the wholly owned company, the right to buy is not available. We'll be renting our properties as a council, as a landlord, in the same way that private landlords across this borough rent the properties. And I've got to say, Mr. Speaker, you're either for this or you're against this. And what this does is bring brownfield sites back into use. It creates jobs for local people. It creates good quality housing for local people. It increases the bar that will be expected of private landlords across the borough. It's a win-win-win. And it's a shame that on this argument, like so many other arguments over the last 4 years, Tories are on the wrong side.
Any other questions under item 7? Councillor Carter.
Yeah, just picking up on what Sean just said and Bill previously. Whilst I understand the argument, I'd ask the question, what you've said, Bill, is speculation. like they say on any documents that you sign with insurance policies or whatever you do, it says these can go up as well as down. So who knows what's going to happen over the next 20, 25 years with house prices, or whether they're going to reach those levels that you're talking about. What I would say is, I was always taught a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. If I could get my £6.5 million now and put some deal together with a private sector company that we get a return later, which will be over and above that what you've stated. Yes, Sean, it can be done. You're speaking to somebody who's run his business for 35 years, private business, so I know what I'm talking about. So what I'm saying is, it might sound very, very good, but a lot of it is speculation, and I just wonder whether that speculation is clever. Thank you.
Councillor Carter, I'm going to take that again as a comment, not a question. It's perfectly legitimate comment, but as a comment. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. I've got to say this is an enormous risk for the council, exposing itself to borrowing on this scale. It's a huge amount of borrowing, well in excess of £40 million, at a very volatile time, as we know, with the economic situation. Changes to the new homes bonus in the short term could affect the ability of this scheme. Changes to council tax receipts. The local government finance system itself may reset the base for council tax at some point, and it probably will over the next 30 years. That is going to affect the viability of this. Now, there's also the question of how we manage to staff this wholly owned company and actually run it. I think this is a very, very speculative development, as Councillor Carter has quite rightly pointed out, and it could be fraught with problems. Now, I can give this undertaking that we would certainly look at working with the around privacy. We've got concerns and quite legitimate sector, but we'll review, have a good look. And what I can't understand, it's quite a simple question, this. In the 90s, this authority was a housing authority. It decided that it was going to sell off all its housing, which it did for £105 million. This council then spent every last cent of that. When we came along in 2007, there wasn't a big, the cupboard was absolutely bare. And now it wants to borrow another £46 million to do the same thing all over again and start building council houses. This really has to be questioned, and it has to be looked at very closely. And I'm not confident at all that the options, the alternative options to this, have in fact been explored properly by the council. There are private sector companies out there and investment companies that would be prepared, I'm quite sure, to have a look at this seriously. Okay. And we should be talking to these before making any final decisions on this sort of exposure. 46 million, that's a frightening amount of money over a 30-year period.
Councillor Reid, again, you used up your time there, but I have to take that again as a comment because I couldn't see there was a question there. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the Leader of the Council on item 216, the Marches LEP. I noticed that we've got £75 million for road things. It's really two questions. One, will any of that money be being spent in the rural areas? And two, the money in the LEP gets comes from Europe. I understand that Europe has given the LEPs money for community events and things. So therefore, will any community monies for our poor communities be coming through the LEP? Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Okay. All right.
Thank you,
Councillor Sahota.
Councillor Fletcher. I think where the money is going to be spent, that £90 million, which is coming from the LEP, is in the papers, and all the roundabouts and all the roads where it's going to be spent or it's going to be widened, it's all in there. And I haven't got the papers in front of me, but if you read it, it will tell you where our it will be spent. And as for the EU money, I don't think we are applying for it, and we haven't got it yet, but we are still waiting for it and see how it goes when we get it, and we'll let you know.
Okay, I'm going to take one more question. I think we need to move on then. But Councillor Fletcher, it was remiss of me not to thank you for your attendance this evening. I understand there have been some difficulties, but you're very welcome. And I note that Veronica's not here, but I hope she's as well. Councillor Bill McClements, before we go to Councillor Phil Thomas.
Excuse me, I think I need to respond to some of the sort of questions in cognito. You know, the comments about the risks of housing investment. If you read the report in detail, you'll understand that we've taken very cautious percentages for increases in rent over the period, very cautious figures for the increase in the value of the property. And if Prince Reid and sort of Carter are telling us that George Osborne has made such a mess of things that housing in Britain is going to start reversing and not grow anywhere near as historical, then you really have made a mess of the economy. The case in that paper is very much on the cautious side. The money for management is on the high side, in my opinion. So it's a cautious report. And you comment the private sector, well, you were in power for 4 years. Why didn't you develop one of these sites? You didn't, did you? You made no moves. Some of the sites have been there for 10 or more years. And this is a way of regeneration. You keep yapping on when there's development in the rest of the borough. You want brownfield site, and here we're doing brownfield site, and you don't want them. You don't really know what you want. You're just guessing. Is a matter of fact. On the LEP, the answer on the money that's been allocated to the council through the LEP process, the government insists they're all for identified projects. You can't use them on the rural side. They have to go to the projects that are in the bid. So there's no ambiguity. They can't be moved. They're absolutely for specific projects, and they're actually for increasing jobs and increasing housing build. That's why the government, your government, has given us the money to ensure we keep our development going. They want the growth.
8. Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Mr. Speaker, I'll give the question first, then give the preamble as to why I'm asking the question. The question is, will the council keep the option open for individuals? Am I on? Will the council keep the option open for individuals who are renting these dwellings to purchase them in the future? Now, I know there's not a right to buy, and very often the right to buy scheme is people who, on the council rules, would then get them at a discount. But I think it might be useful to keep the option open to purchase them at full market value for 2 reasons. One, if a resident or a tenant has been living there for quite a number of years and becomes settled, they may wish to then remain settled there. If it's been sold at a proper market value, that money then in future can be used by the council to purchase dwellings elsewhere to continue this scheme. It may be derelict land, and then we can accumulate value doing that way. And the other reason is because if you have a whole block, say 20 or 30 dwellings, and those always remain private rented dwellings, by at least having a few of those which are purchased, you get a mixed tenure then of those properties, and I think it might be healthy for an area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Councillor Sean Davis to respond.
Thank you, Bill, for your constructive comment. I think that you never say never, and clearly the flexibility that we have as a council is that over a period of time, if we decide that it is right to sell particular units or units, that means that we can use that money then to go and regenerate other areas, then we can. In terms of the right to buy, clearly, as the Wrekin Housing Trust and others are suffering from, you have a massive discount, and I don't necessarily disagree with the right to buy personally, but that of course cripples the financial model. As Councillor McClements was saying, we've been very conservative in our assumptions. No increase in council tax is assumed in the model. The Public Loans Board interest rate is also assumed at a higher level than it currently is, which is worth £10 million over the course of the next 30 years.
Thank you. Right, finally, Councillor Bentley, and then we're going to move on.
If we get that. Never say never.
From Councillor Bentley, if you could. Thank you.
I'm going back to obviously the housing investment programme. I don't think it's realistic to say at this present moment in time that you could place these properties with the option of right to buy on them, because you need 2 separate business cases. You can't do it within one. On what Bill said about the land and such like, the Tory administration did look at potentially building residential units on some of that land, and we were told it wasn't suitable for development, and we went along with that. I actually brought this up in a shadow cabinet briefing and I'm surprised that the land is now like that. But my final question on this, and it is a question, on this investment programme, how is it addressing the homelessness problems we have here in the borough?
Thank you. Who's responding? Councillor Davis, you responding?
I thought it was a rhetorical question. In fact, how does building circa 400 units in our borough, in areas of high need, help homelessness in Telford and Wrekin? Well, there are houses being built on brownfield sites for local people and from people who want to come and work in Telford and Wrekin. It's a no-brainer. And in terms of the apartments in Southwater, bringing people into to that area, young people potentially, is a no-brainer. And Councillor Bentley completely undermined his point. The private sector wasn't interested in these sites under the previous administration. They're not interested in these sites now. We're bringing forward an investment programme which will raise significant amounts of money for the council in the long run, but equally as important, it will raise the bar of what is acceptable for landlords. And I've got to say, if you speak to those people on the housing list waiting for properties, the fact that you are writing them off and forcing them, if you like, to go into a private landlords, when actually what people want is good quality housing, it's beggars belief.
Members, thank you. Move to item 8, recommendations meeting. Invite Councillor Bill McClements to propose recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The first one's council tax support scheme. On the 31st of March 2013, the National Council Tax Benefit Scheme was abolished and replaced by a new localised council tax support scheme. Telford and Wrekin scheme was introduced April 2013 with a 21% global reduction in council tax support. Telford and Wrekin decided to continue with the same scheme this year, 2014-15, and is recommending that we continue with the same scheme for next year. The report clearly shows that we budgeted for spending 12.6 million of council tax discounts, 12.3 million, which is improvement. Discounts 430,000, a dividend from our growth agenda. The government has stopped giving ring-fenced funding to cover this cost. Instead, the fund is hidden in the general government funding, which is being cut. This government scheme affects our parish and town councils, the police and fire services. Telford and Wrekin Council has and will continue to pass on funding to our parishes and town councils in line with the government cuts. This is not the practice of some councils who have chosen not to pass on any support. The report also recommends that we have a hardship fund of 30,000 for next year, 2015-16. This will be funded out of the collection fund and not affect any other reserves. I move the recommendation, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Overton. Do you want to speak, Councillor Overton? Okay. Councillor Jackie Seymour.
Thank you. I would like an explanation, Councillor Clements, please, as to why this council is in fact passing on the CC subsidy to large parishes and town councils, but excluding every single one of the rural parishes. Parish and town councils do not pay out the actual council tax benefits, so whatever monies are available for distribution should be proportionately distributed between all parish and town councils, including all those in the rural areas, because the effect on the precept of small rural parishes, who only precept a few £1,000s, is relatively just as great, if not greater, than those in the large urban areas.
Thank you, Councillor. I will pass that on to Councillor Sean Davis, because he's our representative who liaises with the town and parish council, and he's gone through this. I mean, clearly, there is a mechanism we've cleared how we do it. We've done it fairly. It's the same each year, and you're right. Progressively, those areas with lower numbers of people claiming ultimately fall out of the system, but the system is very clear, and I think Sean will give you more details on it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The formula that we arrived at was agreed 3 years ago when the change from central government took effect. It was agreed by the Parish and Town Council Forum, independently chaired by Councillor John Smart. There was that particular forum last night when the approach was re-endorsed by Parish and Town Councils. The reality is, Councillor Seymour, that every single Parish and Town Council in the borough, if this government continues its way, will lose its council tax support grant. The cap of the cut is being at some 9%. You're completely right that those areas that have very small levels of council tax claimants, so in some examples 25 or 30 people in their parish who claim council tax support, have now seen that grant has come to an end, maybe £500 or £600, for example. Those areas that have got, in some cases, 12 or 1,300 council tax claimants, council tax support claimants, have seen their grant cut by the same percentage. So, for example, some parish councils in South Telford have seen a cut of the last 3 years of some £15,000, which is a big impact upon the budgets of those councils concerned. I have got a question, I think, from Councillor Nathan England later on about this. I'll come into more detail. But it is a fair system. I accept and appreciate that for rural parish councils who may receive £400 or £500 of council tax support grant, that has now come to an end. But other parish councils where there is high council tax support claimants are seeing reductions of £10,000, £15,000. And I've got to say, Mr. Speaker, that across the border in Shropshire, without any notice whatsoever, they've completely withdrawn the council tax support to parish and town councils and are harbouring the money themselves. That isn't the approach that this administration took. The approach that we took was to agree with parish and town councils 3 years ago the formula. The formula hasn't changed, and as a result, if the government continues to cut in the way that it is, then all parish and town councils will lose the fund, because that was what was agreed. I'm afraid if Councillor Seymour was at the Parish and Town Council Forum last night, she would have heard from parish councils themselves expressing the same satisfaction that we are doing this in a fair way.
Thank you very much. Can I remind members we're debating these recommendations. This is not about, as for the previous item, that you can ask Cabinet members questions. Is there any other elected members who wish to make any comments about what is being recommended? If not, we're going to put this to the vote. No. Councillor Overton, do you want to exercise your right? No. Councillor McClements? No. Right. The recommendations have been proposed. They've been seconded. All those in favour? Against? And any abstentions? Okay. Right, that proposal is accepted. We move to item 9. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Yes, 8.2. Thank you. Financial monitoring 2014-15.
I'll just do this.
So this is, just for clarity then, this is Appendix E, yellow, pages 33 to 36, as opposed to Appendix D, which we just voted on.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I'll just formally move the recommendations. A, B, and C at 8.2. I touched on the financial monitoring earlier, so I won't go over it. If there's any questions, I'll take them. I'll move it formally.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Sahota. Any members want to comment? No? Happy move to the vote. Recommendations have been made, been proposed, been seconded. All those in favour? This is 8.2. Against? Any abstentions? Okay, that proposal is passed and carried. Thank you. We've now definitely moved to item 9. Setting of the council tax base for 2015-16. This is Appendix F, white, pages 37 to 44. And ask again Councillor Bill McClements to present the report and the proposals and recommendations.
Mr. Speaker, yet again, this is a technical report which you have to do every year, and I trust everybody reads it and enjoy reading such a technical report. And I move the recommendations on page 37.
Thank you. Again, do we have a seconder? Councillor Sahota. Any members want to exercise their right to speak? No? Well, the proposal has been put. We've had a seconder. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you. Item 10, minutes of boards and committees. Would offer noting pending H, I, and J. Move to item 11, questions. Just to remind members, we have 30 minutes allocated in total for all the questions. So there is a degree of flexibility here, because when those guidelines were drawn up, we weren't also insisting that people read out those questions for those who can hear them at home. So we might have to extend the 30 minutes, but let's see how we get on. But first question, Councillor Angela McClements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question is, I'm delighted to hear the good news that the University of Wolverhampton is to open a new centre based on the top floor. Progress so far.
Thank you, Councillor McClements. It was a great moment that Wolverhampton University and Telford Wrekin Council came together to provide this much-needed service in our town. I can confirm that heads of terms for the rent of the space have been agreed with the university, and both
Southwater Cabinet members employing. Please give.
With a target completion date at the end of February. The university have agreed that part of the floor will be used to accommodate the future focus team, as well as other services. It also fits into our commercial agenda. The university have had confidence in our property and design service and will be commissioning them to carry out the work. What students around Telford and Wrekin need to know is that in the heart of Southwater, in our jewel, in our crown, they'll be able to access postgraduate and undergraduate qualifications, both academically and vocational qualifications from TCAP.
Thank you. Councillor McClements, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Mr. Speaker. Well, thank you for the update. It's very much appreciated. And I'm looking forward to this wonderful facility being available for our young people in Telford. A University of Telford site right in the heart of Southwater. Well, that's great news, thank you. However, I would like to raise my disappointment that on a recent Telford and Wrekin Conservative Party social media site, they stated, quotes, due to Labour's mismanagement, we have staff spread all over Telford and the recently opened council building at Southwater. Although impressive, houses the library, an absolute luxury, and 2 floors up is a public contact centre. The empty top floor is going to be used by the university. And then it goes on to say how much nicer it would have been to have had a busy and prestigious council office giving focus to Southwater. In the light of these concerning comments, Councillor Davis, I just wondered if you could confirm that if this administration is re-elected in May, we will keep Southwater 1 building as a community hub for the many and not a civic office for the few. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Councillor McClements. I can confirm that since the 14th of July, over 1 in respect of that library, which is providing much needed services. We are also getting an income from 100 people, SW1 a year the council is receiving as an income. And Southwater is a massive success story. It has doubled the footfall to Telford Town Centre over the Christmas period. It is busy during the day, during the morning, during the evening, and it's. I heard an anecdote over the weekend when I was in Southwater myself with friends, including Richard Overton. A restaurant who's in Southwater right now, and also has one in Shrewsbury. In Shrewsbury, they had a profit of £1,000 on a Saturday. On a cold, dark winter Tuesday night, Tuesday daytime, sorry, they received a profit of £6,000. Southwater is a big success story. What we've done is prioritise young people and our residents over council officers and councillors. I know that there's a slight obsession by the Tory opposition about having that office overlooking the lake, but I've got to say the ice rink kept in council ownership, a university for Telford and Wrekin, a place for people to socialise and enjoy Telford is the biggest priority. And we categorically rule out building a council palace for the Tory opposition to look over a lake and they gander.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Davis. And then Councillor Kevin Guy, question 2. This is Councillor Sean Davis.
The council and what reply, if any, is received from the Ministry of Employment following the motion on youth employment.
Thank you, Councillor Guy. I have received a reply from Mr McVeigh, who again tells us that we need to provide services for the profit-making work programme providers, even though our success rate in youth unemployment and unemployment generally is a massive success story. 50% reduction in youth unemployment over the last year, and we all should be proud of the investment that we've put into that. But she says, no, we have to do a deal with Serco or one of the other providers who will make a profit on the work that we do, as we can't be trusted ourselves. What's interesting now is that Boris Johnson has listened to Telford and Wrekin over the last few months, and what he's doing is empowering borough councils in London to drive growth and jobs. He's given a contract to a number of borough councils in London, and Greg Clark, the Minister for City, says that the government wants to continue to back local leaders, giving them the powers and freedoms to transform public services, create jobs and boost prosperity. What's good for London is good for Telford and Wrekin. I wish Esther McVeigh would have a chat with Boris Johnson and realise that actually we as a council have a much better success rate, and we will do it at no profit at all.
Thank you. Councillor Guy, you've heard what Councillor Davis says. Any follow-up, anything, observations you want to make about that? No, thank you very much. Councillor Nathan England, question 3.
Can the Cabinet member responsible for parish and town councils please confirm that this council proposes to pass on the grant to parish and town councils from the council tax support grant and not take the approach of Shropshire Council?
Thank you, Councillor. I think we had a debate a little bit earlier on that. The simple answer is yes, we are. It's a shame that, that Keith Barrow, who wants, of course, to take over Telford and Wrekin, has taken the approach that he has. We trust parish and town councils to deliver. They do a fantastic job in our community. We've already heard about Wellington Town Council, Dawley Town Council, Open Gates, Maida. There's so many that I can talk. Rockerdine, Wood and Trench. I can talk Brookside and Sturchley. I can talk about Donington and Littleshall. I can talk about so many parish and town councils who do a fantastic job, and it's a shame. It's a shame that the Tories across the border have taken the approach they do, looking down on parish and town councils. We'll continue to work cooperatively with our partners.
Thank you. Councillor England, you heard the answer?
Yeah, just a small supplementary, if I could, please.
Okay.
Does the Cabinet member agree that the parish councils contribute positively to the borough, including employing some 10 apprentices through the parish environmental teams?
Absolutely. Parish environmental teams are a great success story, including a number of apprentices and increasing the standards of environment. Clearly, if we cut the council tax support grant like the way that Shropshire are talking about, what would happen is parish and town councils will counsel parish environmental teams that will put apprentices on the dole, and therefore it will be a detrimental impact upon apprentices and our young people, but also our environment. And I think that at the end of the day, I'd rather be a member of a progressive Labour-controlled council here in Telford and Wrekin than sell out to Shropshire and the Tories across the border.
Councillor Davis, thank you. Councillor Gilly Reynolds, I think, Councillor Watling, you're going to come and replace Councillor Davis here now. So this is question 4, Councillor Gilly Reynolds, and it is to Councillor Paul Watling.
Can the Cabinet member for Children, Young People and Families comment on the performance of primary schools in Telford and Wrekin since, in 2014?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Yeah, this has been a hugely successful year for our primary schools, and I'm pleased to let the Council know that the percentage of pupils achieving level 4 or above in reading, writing and maths is 78%, an improvement of 4 points from 2013. This is the same as the England level and 2 points above the West Midlands level now. The gap to national has improved from 2 points below in 2012 and 2013 to the same as the England for 2014. This is the first time that Telford and Wrekin has matched England for this measure, and the first it has exceeded the regional percentage. The percentage of pupils achieving level 4B or above in reading, writing and maths is 66%, an improvement of 7 points from the year before. The percentage of pupils achieving level 5 or above in reading, writing and maths is 22%, and this is the same as the West Midlands and only 1 point now below the England average. The percentage of pupils taking at least 2 levels of progress in reading is 91%, and it's increased by 4 points since last year's 87%. This is the same as England and 1% above the West Midlands. Telford and Wrekin have closed the gap to national for 2 years in a row, improving from 2 points below in 2012 and now matches the national rate for reading. The percentage for pupils taking 2 levels progress in maths is 88%, and this is improved by 3 points from last year's 85%. The gap from national was improved by 3 points, from 3 points below national last year to 1 point below for 2014. I believe this council should welcome these results, send congratulations to the children, families, teachers and governors, and of course our own school improvement service for this progress.
Thank you. Councillor Gilly Reynolds, you've heard the answer. Any follow-up?
Yeah, just a supplementary. What would you identify as key to this success?
Well, I think it's, you can't run a whole of the education system in England from a desk in Whitehall, and what makes a difference is local solutions, as we can see from our results. This is about local trusted services working closely with local schools. It's about governors working with head teachers. It's about head teachers and staff teams working with our school improvement service. You know, what I'd say to Nicky Morgan is stop tinkering now and let's get on with the job. Give it back to local solutions for those local issues. We've proven that we're a success in Telford and Wrekin. We've proven what can be achieved in some of the most disadvantaged communities in our town. Let's continue to do that.
Thank you. Question 5. This is from Councillor Rob Sloan, who is asking Councillor Kuldip Sahota the following question.
Can the leader confirm to Council that there is no backdoor or front door deal currently being done to merge with Wolverhampton City Council?
Thank you.
What shall I say about that? Let me say this, Councillor Sloan, there's absolutely, Mr. Speaker, there is absolutely no plan for a Telford and Wrekin Council to merge with Wolverhampton, whether it's a back door or a front door or any other door or by any other door. I have repeated this over and over again. And the reason is we are successful, a council bringing jobs and growth and everything, and we're doing very well, and thank you very much. And this has been sort of raised over and over again by the MP for the Wrekin, and so it's very disappointing that he keeps on raising it and making these false statements, and I'm quite disappointed with that. However, we already work with many councils across the country, and when it benefits our residents, and we will continue to do that. This is not the first time the MP for the Wrekin has made these false statements, and he was on the Sunday Midlands politics show some weeks ago, and he made a number of inaccurate statements about, you know, our that we raised the council tax 3 times or something. It was all wrong actually. And then I wasn't here. And then Bill wrote a letter to Mark Pritchard on the 2nd of January and raising these 5 false statements which he had. And normally he's quite good at actually getting back. But it's been so long, and you know, he hasn't. So he just goes around and making up these things, and he reminds me of you know, the famous character created by James Thurber. You know, the name of the character is Walter Mitty, and he just goes around dreaming, you know, daydreaming all day and just making up things. And I do wish the local MP for the Wrekin would stop doing that. This is about his credibility, and I hope his voters are listening. Thank you.
Councillor Sloan, you want to follow that up?
Yes, always very careful when I attribute anything to Mark Pritchard. I don't want to get a solicitor's letter. Thank you very much. So I'm going to do some quotes, which I'd like the leader to comment on. Standing outside, commenting on recent events, he says, "To be falsely accused of anything is an awful thing." He then went into Parliament, and let's be clear of the question that he asked Nick Clegg, as if Nick Clegg would know anything. The Conservative MP said, "As he will know, Telford and Wrekin Council is representing a semi-rural area, and yet there is a backdoor deal currently being done with Wolverhampton City Council, which is an urban area." If he ever does respond to one of your invitations to come and talk to you about what's going on in Telford and Wrekin Council, perhaps you could remind him that he is a resident of the town. We didn't have any public questions tonight, and rather than asking Nick Clegg, why didn't he ask us? Thank you.
Absolutely. He can come around and ask the question, and we will, if not the leader or the cabinet, he can always write to the officers and get the facts right. And he's always get the facts wrong. And I don't want to go over all this information again, Mr. Speaker.
No, but that would be something we'd all look forward to. Question 6, Councillor Peter Scott, and this is to Councillor Sean Davis.
Speaker.
There are issues with bulk collection, which means Newport residents currently have to travel to the Granville site to get rid of large waste items. Are any future plans to improve this situation?
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Davis, just because we do have people who are trying to follow this. Your microphone was not working. It's not your fault. So can I just read it on your behalf? In the recent Newport town plan, the residents of Newport are asking for improvements in their recycling offer following on from the closure of the Newport Recycling Centre. There are issues with bulk collection, which means that Newport residents currently have to travel to the Granville site to get rid of large waste items. Are there any future plans to improve this situation?
Thank you, Councillor Scott, and thank you for meeting me some 2 or 3 weeks ago to discuss this in a constructive and positive way in which you did. I think it's a nice change that those who are elected by the people, the good people of Newport, that their representatives do take a constructive and positive approach rather than the constant negativity that we've seen in the last 3.5 years, and congratulations on your election. Part of the pride in your community that the Tories voted against, we as an administration introduced one annual free offer for householders with a resident of over 65. I'm talking about the bulk collection service, of course. So if you're over 65 and you live anywhere in Telford and Wrekin, you get one free collection. If you're disabled, you can also get one free collection. If you're on particular benefits, then you can get a 25% discount. And if you have a Telford loyalty card, you have 10% off. Following your representations to both the leader and myself, Councillor Scott, I have been able to look at this together with the Cabinet, and we will go further in Newport as a pilot. Every resident of Newport will receive a free collection from the bulk collection on top of the other offers that are made. So if you live in Newport and you're over 65, you get 2 free collections over the next 12 months. I think this is going to go some way to help the residents of Newport. I think you articulated the needs of residents of Newport very, very well. Clearly, as the new contract takes shape, then we will be looking to increase the opening hours of CRC. I have every intention, if I'm the cabinet member and called it to the leader, and we are in charge of the administration, that CRCs will reopen to 7 days a week following the next set of local elections. But I just want to say, Councillor Scott, it is brilliant to be able to speak to a strong local voice.
On this, and I'm sure the residents of Newport will appreciate the offer you've given. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question 7. Councillor Amrik Jawar will ask Councillor Bill McClements the following question.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Cabinet Minister for the Finance and Enterprise
update the council on the position regarding the bid for the logistic hub at the MOD Donington?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. We were told the decision was going to be public on the 19th of December last year. Then we were told that we would know by the end of January. It now appears it will be next month, February. We are still confident that Donington will be successful, and we urge the government to make an announcement as soon as possible. Do you have a supplementary?
That's fine. Thank you very much. You've heard that response. Is there a follow-up you want to ask in light of that response?
Could you outline the work carried out and who supported it to maximise Telford's offer?
Thank you, Councillor. A lot of work was carried out to maximise the Donington offer. Discussions with MOD officials and the various bidders, layout and design work by the council to attract the bidders, obtaining land options, planning, consultations, meeting with neighbours potentially affected by the hub, developing funding options and discussing with the bidders. A lot of work has been done. You asked who supported this effort. The detailed work, the ideas and negotiations were carried out by the team of officers at Telford and Wrekin, and I thank them for their major contribution to this bid. There was a cross-party support in this chamber, this council, for the funding options and recorded. I do hope that continues. There was positive support from the local parish councils and constructive support and discussions with neighbouring businesses and residents who were affected potentially by the new hub. And I would like to thank David Wright, Telford MP, for his good advice and support in this. And I say that advisedly because others did not give any support. Thank you.
Thank you. And we move to the final question. Question 8, I think this is to you, Councillor McClements. You're going to stay where you are. Councillor Gilly Reynolds. And this again is to Councillor Bill McClements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Cabinet Member for Finance and Enterprise give an update on negotiations on Homes and Community Agency land in Telford?
Thank you very much. Negotiations are still continuing. There has been a series of meetings since the new year. The shape of the offer has changed since we started the discussion, so it keeps moving. This all started when we lobbied the Minister Eric Pickles some time ago. Then it was put in the growth deal for the Marches LEP. And since that, all negotiations have been between HCA and Telford and Wrekin officers. I understand that we are likely to have a final offer before the end of March. Probably the Treasurer will have the last say on this, and the wonders of central government possibly will get it before the election. So, you know, I think it's going to be close, but we're told March we'll get feedback. Have you got it?
Thank you. Councillor Gilly Reynolds.
Could you tell us why the government retained so much land in Telford and Wrekin?
Yes, this is historic. This goes back to the time TDC was closed down, and that's, for those that may not remember, it was Telford Development Corporation. TDC had purchased many acres of land for industrial and housing building for the future growth of Telford. The government minister at the time, when we were closing down, TDC decided not to give all the land or any of it to the council, but instead kept it with central government. That is the reason central government has so much land in our borough. That the king at the time was Nicholas Ridley. And judging by recent comments about the hospital in Shrewsbury, Needing and Shrewsbury, it shows the lack of commitment to Telford has continued to the second.
Okay, members, thank you for that. We got through in sufficient time. We move to the final item of this evening, which is item 11, notice of motion. Councillor Sahota will move in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 11 the following motion. Councillor Sahota.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to start by saying that paying a tribute to the fantastic work done by all the doctors, nurses, and all the staff at the local Princess Royal Hospital. It was good to hear the report from the Quality Care Commission.
Councillor Soames, I do apologise. There are people following. We do need to read out the motion. If you could do that first, please.
Right.
Thank you.
Have you got? Right, the motion. This council sincerely thanks the hard work of doctors, nurses, paramedics, healthcare assistants, and all the support staff at the A&E Princess Royal Hospital who are having to deal with the ongoing crisis caused by the government's £3 billion top-down reorganisation. The government cuts to the local government, together with the slashing preventative funding, clearly demonstrate the need for Telford Princess Royal Hospital to remain full 24 hours, 7 days a week A&E department. This council therefore calls on David Cameron to take immediate action to ease pressure on A&E by helping families see GP, getting more nurses, answering the call to National Health Service 111, halting the closure of walk-in centres and recruiting former nursing back into the National Health Service to help deal with the staff pressures. That's it.
That's fine. And just so you're clear, Councillor Jose, I know you're going to talk to that motion now. You've used up a significant amount of the time, which is not of your making, so we will allow you some flexibility.
Yeah. Like I said, it was good to hear the report from the Care Quality Commission that the staff at the both Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital were caring and compassionate and treated patients with dignity and respect. Mr. Speaker, the reason I brought this motion to the full council is because it is clear that there is a crisis in our National Health Service, and this problem has been created by the Tory-led government. I spoke to a nurse who works at the PRH a few weeks ago who said that the morale within the health service was a rock bottom. In the last few months, I have been going around Telford knocking on people's door and collecting signature on behalf of our local MP David Wright to keep the A&E open at the Princess Royal Hospital, and you want to hear some of the things and some of the stories they tell you. And for many people, our local A&E is a real lifeline to them, and that's what they tell me. Since the publication of my article, there was an article I wrote and it came out in the Wrekin news, and since that article, people have been coming around to me and telling me that I am spot on about fighting for the A&E and angry that their Wrekin MP doesn't seem to be bothering about that. I can take you to the doctor's surgery, Mr. Speaker, in Telford, in an area with a large BME community, where for the last 2 years they have been lobbying me to do something about their doctor's surgery because they are having difficulty in getting appointments, and sometimes they turn up at the surgery and the surgery is closed. And I have spoken to someone in the CG about this, and they promised to look into it. But the question remains, Mr. Speaker, why should anyone have to put up with this kind of services from whichever community you are? We can't have a situation where people are taking longer and longer to get the appointments. National Health Service is throwing money at the staff agency because they have cut nursing training places in the last 5 years. The agency bill has gone through the roof, and there was recognition by the Shrewsbury and Telford Trust that the two A&E wards are being pushed to breaking point by the relentless number of people coming through the doors. And we are lucky to have the best health service in the world. And my uncle, who died some months ago, he used to say that the National Health Service is a god to them, a god to him, because they looked after him really, really well. So the National Health Service we have the best National Health Service in the world, but we are in danger of taking it for granted. We as a councillors have a duty to represent our residents. Our National Health Service is in crisis. We need to play our part in telling David Cameron that urgent action needs to be taken to help families see GPs, recruit more nurses, encourage former nurses to come back into the National Health Service and to deal with the chaos. I move the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Overton, I think you're seconding the motion, is that right?
I'll second with reserve my right to speak.
Right, thank you very much. Right, open to members. Got a few people. Councillor Angela McClements.
the mic working? No. Can you hear me now? Just. Is it on? That's okay. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to start by also thanking all the doctors, nurses and staff who work not just at our local hospital but all around the country for their care, compassion and dedication to the role. They do a fantastic job, but it is also a very difficult, stressful and demanding job with no pay rise for a number of years, and it must be very demoralising for them. But we have to be honest, don't we? The NHS is in crisis, and this government needs a big wake-up call to sort it. And Mr. Speaker, I make no apology for being part of that wake-up call as a politician. Like Councillor Sohota said, it is the duty of councillors to represent their residents, and I make no apology whatsoever to being part of that growing voice which is saying that immediate action is needed to ease pressure on A&E. Now, I visited a very sick and elderly resident a number of times in my own ward of Alston, who had spent Christmas at the PRH. He had nothing but praise and care for the care and compassion that he received from doctors and nurses, but what he was very concerned about was the enormous pressure that they were under trying to deliver that service. His words to me were, "Angela, those nurses are run off their feet and they didn't know which way to turn at times. Something's wrong. Can't you do something? You've got more clout than me." He was asking me, as his elected representative, if I could do something. Of course I said I would, and that's why I'm here tonight, raising my voice on behalf of the residents that I represent. Now, in November, the government was being warned by its own auditors that the NHS was facing financial meltdown. And Dr. Peter Carter from the Royal College of Nursing recently said that the nurses and other hard-pressed health workers are trying to deliver the very best for their patients against a backdrop of tight finances, staff shortages and short-term planning. He went on to say that NHS finances are currently on a knife edge. So what we're asking David Cameron to do is to sit up and listen. Help families get to see their GP. Get qualified people in to answer NHS 111. Stop the closure of walk-in centres, and for goodness sake, give our NHS workers a well-deserved pay rise. I support this motion wholeheartedly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, I support the motion. Recently I read that one of the government initiatives was with a failing hospital, they decided to privatise it and put it out to contract. And lo and behold, the private contractor has decided to pull out of the contract. And why have they decided to pull out? They pulled out because there are too many people in admissions and putting under too much pressure. They've got bed blocking so that patients that really need to come out of the hospital can't come out into the rest of the community. These are issues which every single hospital up and down the land have had, and that's one of the main reasons a lot of them haven't been doing that well. So privatisation of hospitals isn't the answer to the problem. We need more investment in GP surgeries and more investment back to local government, particularly in areas like adult social care and others, where we can help look after those people in their own homes. And who knows, maybe convalescent hospitals or maybe cottage hospitals may come back one day. I know it sounds daft, but what people really need is professional care where they know they're going to be looked after, but not necessarily in acute hospitals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Tomlinson, thank you very much. Councillor Sean Davis.
Mr. Speaker, I wasn't going to speak in this debate, but I just want to raise a voice as well, following Councillor McClements's comments, for NHS workers in my ward, the porters, the nurses, the student nurses. Not too many doctors living in my ward, but there's a number of support staff that do. And they are run off their feet. They are doing hours, more hours than ever before. And they're doing hours that they are not getting paid for because they care about the patients. And they're silenced because of their role, because they dared and speak up about the conditions that they are facing. And let's be clear, it doesn't have to be like this. A £3 billion top-down reorganisation of the National Health Service by Andrew Lansley. No one asked for, no one voted for. The complete disaster of the organisations where you have private companies who just so happen to be Tory donors getting multi-million-pound contracts, circling and taking off profit to the private sector. And there's a doctor's surgery not too far away from here, Mr. Speaker, that if you drive past on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, any day of the week, people are queuing at 8 o'clock in the morning to get into that surgery to see their doctor. There are people not so far away from here, like Councillor Sahota, that I've knocked on their doors over the last few months, who will tell you horror stories of when they've dialed 101. They'll tell you horror stories of the ambulance response times because of the cutbacks as a result of that. The inability to go to a walk-in centre because of the cuts there. No one gave David Cameron permission to wreck our National Health Service, and we need to, as a council, on behalf of our residents, stand up for the people who work in the National Health Service, stand up for those people who rely on the National Health Service, and we as community leaders need to say no more. We need a mansion tax that will create money, which will create more doctors, more nurses, more healthcare assistants, and for the many and not for the few. And not in my name, not in our name, we should be sending a clear message to David Cameron and Jeremy Hunt that we've had enough of what they're doing to our National Health Service.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You did mention I was late tonight. I actually had to go to the local walk-in centre with my wife, who's got a problem because we couldn't get into the doctor's surgery because it was fully booked. And we kept away from the A&E because it was only a minor problem. But why can't you get into a doctor's surgery? I mean, they've got lots of doctors, they're working very hard, but you can't get access. Until I did a bit of research and found out that the main reason for all the problems is the Blair government. Before they took office, GPs ran their out-of-hours services, where you had GP cover out of hours with the assistance of trained nurses. There were large local general hospitals with up to 1,000 beds with 24-hour A&E services. And what happened when Blair changed all the rules, the health service? Removal of Saturday surgeries, freedoms of GPs to make their own contracts, not to give out-of-hours service. That is a Blair Labour policy. Gave them that relief. And they doubled their salary, as one of my colleagues mentioned. What we need now is a return to a good local general hospital like the PRH with a full 24-hour service. And I think that Mr. Cameron should go and reverse all the Labour interaction that have gone wrong. They're the ones who set up all these expensive trusts and increased the number of administrators by 70%. Administration up by 70%, not extra doctors, not extra nurses. We've been getting extra doctors and extra nurses. And I noticed that the leader mentioned about the Queer Quality Commission report. It seems that he's been selective in the reading of the report. He did say that the actual way the nurses and the such staff treated the patients was very, very good, but everything else wasn't very good, and it does need improving. But then I'm sure that the Labour normal policy will be throw more money at it. Well, I point out the heading in the Telford Journal from last week from our Chief Officer of the Clinical Commissioning Group. Part of the trouble is, if you throw more money into the kitty, you'll keep going back for more and more money. What we need to do is have a different way of delivering care. And if different healthcare providers work closer together, it will reduce the number of people having to come to A&E. My time is up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Eric Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, Councillor Fletcher has stolen some of my thunder, and I don't want to repeat. Hang on, this thing's not working very well, like some of the people in this place. What I would say is, trying not to repeat what Councillor Fletcher has said, I'm speaking as someone who 12 months ago took my wife Jackie to the Princess Royal, almost at death's door, and they did a fantastic job. In 3 weeks, she lost 3 stone through a heart problem and getting pneumonia. She's now fully recovered. So my praise for the Princess Royal cannot be disputed. The fact of the matter is, if the NHS is safe in Labour's hands, go and tell the people in Wales that. They're coming over the borders to use our services. In Wales, it's far, far worse than it is in this country. And who runs the NHS in this country? The Labour, no, Conservatives and Liberal Democrats. In Wales, it's Labour. So if it's always better under Labour, go and tell the people in Wales that they've got a fantastic service and see what they say to you. What I would also say is, when you've got people like Andy Burnham speaking out in Parliament and saying how wonderful the Labour would be if they came back into power, 2010, I'll remind Andy Burnham what happened in Stoke and what happened in Stafford. People dying under his watch. So if they were safe under Labour, go and tell that to all the people whose people suffered in that hospital in Stafford, which was taken into special measures. Go and tell them, those people, that. This government has done very, very well as a result of what Ian Fletcher's mentioned, the rules that Tony Blair put in 2004 to halve the hours that doctors worked and pay them twice as much money, which means that people, to get any treatment, have to go to A&E because they can't see a doctor. Those are the big problems, and let's recognise that. Nobody's saying it's perfect. David Cameron has announced he's going to put an extra $2 billion into the health service, and he will, and I'm sure now, I believe Labour are saying they're going to put 2.5 or whatever it is in, so it's tipped that because we have an election coming up, as we all know. But what I would say is, let's have this myth completely taken apart, because if the NHS is safe under Labour, go and tell the Welsh.
Thank you. Councillor Shirley Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, unlike some others, I will actually reiterate what's been said on part of the chamber. The hard work and dedication of the NHS staff is fantastic, and I also echo the sentiments expressed and offer thanks for the health workers. To even consider cutting one of the A&E departments in our area is unbelievable. My own cousin is a theatre nurse at the Princess Royal Hospital, and I know firsthand the issues that are going on there. And if David Cameron is doing such a good job, why is it in the first week of December only 87% of patients in A&E were treated in 4 hours? The trolley waiting figures are even worse. The number of people spending between 4 to 12 hours on a trolley before a bed could even be found for them was 7,760, the highest since records began. And this was in December under David Cameron's watch, when they are doing so well. I can't even begin to imagine what it must be like to be so ill that you need to be admitted to hospital, but then you find you're just stuck on a trolley for hours waiting for a bed. We desperately need proper planning and investment in the National Health Service and social services, not cutting even more services and further reducing the A&E capacity for a growing town like Telford. Our population warrants 24-hour, 7-day-a-week full A&E provision. Our county should not and must not lose either of its A&E services. It is not a Telford versus Shrewsbury debate. We need both. This government should be investing in our NHS, not giving tax cuts to the wealthy. This government had a choice about how they treat those in need in our society. They did not have to give £2.5 billion tax cuts to the richest last year. This money could have gone into the health service, improving A&E services for everyone. This is the front line of our NHS. It is in crisis. I urge the government and David Cameron to halt the closures of the working centres, which will only add further to the crisis in the NHS. We can't wait for his promise of money in 2018, the promised increase for doctors in the future. The NHS needs help now. This administration is committed to protecting A&E facilities at Princess Royal Hospital for its residents. We will fight to protect those services. It is about politics, it's about patients, doctors and real people, and I urge all members of the Chamber to support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Kevin Guy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like Councillor Davis, I wasn't going to speak on this issue. However, I'll try and eye into the politics slightly. Recently, within the last few days, my grandfather's 89, suffered a very bad fall and was rushed into A&E at a very unreasonable time. He unfortunately suffered a broken neck. However, the treatment that he received at A&E recently, in the last few days, was exceptional. He was constantly seen throughout his time there. Unfortunately, he did have to wait 4 hours in a corridor with his broken neck, but he was constantly seen by medical staff while he was there. The wait was shocking, which just demonstrates how stretched our services are in Shropshire and how stretched our services are in Telford. So I fully support the motion. It would be ridiculous to even think about taking away 24-hour A&E in Telford and Wrekin. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arnold, England.
Thank you, Speaker. Of course, I support this motion. I also want to echo my thanks to the hospital staff and all the people that work in the health industry at the moment. As a former hospital worker of many years ago, operating theatre attendant, I have some insights into the type of work, and as my colleagues say, I always relate these questions back to myself, don't I? Right. We have a history of campaigning in this area for health services, and I look at Miles and I look around the room, and there are a number of people across the floor that campaign for the Princess Royal Hospital, as well as businesses, the trade union movement and political parties. So this doesn't belong to any one party, it belongs to us all. And I think it's right that we should continue to fight to retain the services that we fought so long and hard to get. We are a regional growth point for housing and industry. The current debate is moving towards a single A&E site for Shropshire, costing around £500 million, with further hundreds of millions of pounds for local urgent care centres. Now, God knows where that money is going to come from, and I am told that it could take up to 10 years to realise that vision. In the meantime, we have to manage with what we've got. So with regards to the current funding crisis, I have become acutely aware in my current role that we have to integrate the NHS, the CCG and local authorities to enable efficiencies and economy of scale, as well as properly funding continuing healthcare in the community to release beds from the hospital. Until we work together, we will continue to have a fractured health service. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, I've got two other members who indicated they wish to speak. Is there anybody else beyond those two? I've got Councillor Nigel Dugmore and Councillor Liz Clare. No, I think once Councillor Clare speaks, Councillor Overton, you exercise your right to reply, and then Councillor Sahota to sum up. Councillor Nigel Dugmore.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I'd like to add my thanks and appreciation to the hard-working NHS staff who are doing an excellent job and providing a fantastic service during this peak winter period. This motion gives us the opportunity to remember why such spending cuts are necessary. The last Labour government stole the money. Don't take my word for it, they told us themselves. The members opposite say it's the bankers. Well, I think that's what they cry. But who was regulating them at the time? Balls, Brown and Miliband. So however you look at it, the blame lies squarely at Labour's rule. I fully support preserving our hospital services, but it's essential to reduce the pressure on these services. The Prime Minister can only help people see their GP by negotiation, as all GP practices are businesses, many owned by the doctors themselves, and they're contracted to the NHS. Surgery opening times and hours are determined by the individual surgeries, not by the government or the NHS. I'm sure he will be more successful at championing the patient than Tony Blair was. At the time, a GP said to me, if you were offered a 40% pay rise for doing less work, would you take it? Another way of reducing the pressure is by encouraging people to access other health professionals. Forgive me for promoting my own profession, but local pharmacies, many of which are open late into the night and over weekends, can treat minor ailments. Indeed, this council could help reduce the pressure on A&E services by taking advantage of local commissioning schemes, which are now under its control. For example, if local specially trained pharmacists were able to issue treatments for instance, urine infections, well, then this would have a significant impact on visits to A&E departments and, equally importantly, hospital admissions, especially for the elderly. Such schemes could be set up relatively easily and quickly. My last point, Mr. Speaker, is funding. We all know that the NHS is in crisis due to being incompetently run by the Labour administration over there. However, it is not right that our hospitals should treat Welsh patients and then not be paid promptly. I asked the Hospital Trust how much are they owed and how prompt are they paid for the excellent services they provide. And just briefly, I would like to say that I was, with regards to beds being available, I was speaking to somebody who spent a week in hospital perfectly all right and was bored out of his brain because he needed a bed for 6 hours after a biopsy, and the doctor told him to actually needed to go into hospital to actually keep the bed, and that is absolutely unforgivable.
Councillor Liz Clare.
Thank you for that. Can I say I am absolutely disgusted. This shouldn't be about politics. It shouldn't be about harping in the past. Who did what? Who's to blame for what? We are interested in the future. We're interested in keeping an A&E at Telford. And quite honestly, I really am appalled. We shouldn't have to have a motion to ask the people that are closer to those that are actually in government to do something on our behalf. They don't listen to the opposition. They're only interested in their own people. Well, their own people ought to be knocking on their door, not sitting over there and saying, oh, it's the past, it's the past. Well, if it's the past's gone. I want to be able to go to the A&E when I've had a heart attack or whatever. And let me remind you of an incident of a friend of mine that had a heart attack on holiday in Wales. She could not have had better care. And again, the morale was low in the hospital. They said, do you know, we're supposed to be the worst hospital in Wales. The care that she got from those people, the nurses couldn't have done more, cup of tea any night, time of the night or day, a word, and I'll tell you now, they wrote and they phoned her when she came back from Wales to see if she wanted to go back for the aftercare. Apart from the fact of the distance, she would have done because she knew how well she'd been looked after. Let's stop playing party politics and yes, because it's needed, because somebody needs to wake up the government about the NHS. Doctors and nurses and yes. Because that's the only way we can wake you up to go to the people that you know better than we do. And I'm glad to hear it.
Can
and
we
I
allow
hope.
Councillor Clare to get through what she needs to say without being interrupted?
Yeah,
Councillor Clare.
what I'm concerned about is the future. And let's not forget, when we talk about more nurses, more doctors, let's hope that this government for the last 4 years has ensured enough of being trained, because that's where the crux will be. You can ask for as many as you like, but if they are not coming out of the universities and the hospitals where they're trained, you still won't get them. And yeah, we'll all hopefully vote for this, but we are incumbent on those nearest the current government, and let's hope we have a change in May, because believe you me, we'd be knocking on the doors straight away after May. Thank you.
Councillor Clare, thank you. Councillor Richard Overton, you seconded the motion. And then we'll come to Councillor Sahota to sum up.
Does that work? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The doctors and nurses who work in our beloved health service are a credit to themselves and the service they represent. The NHS has saved my life on 2 occasions. That is why I will do everything I can to fight to keep it free and to make sure it is a service of the highest calibre. We must also remember the other staff that keeps the NHS working, the cleaners, the caterers, the porters, the ambulance and paramedic crews and other specialists, and make sure our NHS continues to deliver for its patients. But the NHS is again in crisis. A crisis not caused by them, but caused by David Cameron and his government. How many times have we seen the NHS struggling when the Conservatives are in power? How many times must the NHS go through top-down reorganisation that costs billions, delivers nothing, but what it does do is affect delivery and performance? This government has caused this crisis, and we all know they would sooner sell parts of it off to their friends than invest in making sure one of the organisations that is envied across the world continues to deliver. Their cuts to social care in local government have also had an effect on how this crisis has been formed, because ideologically they do not believe in public service when most of the public do. Their massive cuts to local councils has made sure that the pressures on A&E departments and hospitals increase. The cost of the reorganisation that no one wanted would have been better spent on the NHS and hospitals. The newly created NHS England have failed to invest in commissioning GPs and capital projects, when it always recognised that increasing the need for better primary care access helps alleviate the pressures of A&E. In Telford and Wrekin, we are under-doctored and have more patients per GP than the regional average. Another reason residents access our A&E system when they can't see their doctor. The government's closure of walk-in centres has also meant access has been denied or reduced, and again builds up pressures on our country's A&E departments. The huge changes from NHS Direct to the 1-1 service didn't help either, with some contractors failing to meet targets or finding they couldn't fulfil the contracts and handing them back. When it comes to the NHS, this government clearly has no idea. This council has quite rightly fought for full 24-hour accident and emergency services at our Princess Royal Hospital in Telford. The Telford MP, David Wright, is the only local MP being vocal on this matter. David's campaign is gathering momentum to keep 24-hour A&E at Telford's PRH. This council's cross-party resolution shows that we in this chamber are on the side of our town too, and I really hope that this motion can be supported tonight in the same way. We must fight to keep our accident and emergency department. We must fight because we are the growing town. There should be no sellouts to Shrewsbury or to health bosses pie-in-the-sky ideas of a £500 million new emergency centre in a place no one knows or have costed for. The current proposals mean that the cheapest and quickest option is to make the Princess Royal Hospital the main critical care unit. Let's make sure we fight tooth and nail for Telford Hospital. Let's make sure the doctors and nurses and NHS workers know we are on their side. Let's make sure all our residents know we are standing up for them and our beloved National Health Service. The message must be clear. The current crisis in accident emergency departments was caused by Downing Street, no one else. You can't trust the Tories with the NHS, and we all know and are campaigning for Telford needs an A&E.
Thank you. Councillor Sahota. who's going to sum up, and then we're going to go to the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for all those who took part in the debate. And you know, there's about 10 or 12 councillors, and thank you for your support. Councillor Fletcher, I'm sorry to hear Veronica is unwell. Let's hope she gets well soon. And I agree with your statement. Return to good old General Hospital, and that's what we're all here, and that's what we're all fighting for. As for the Councillor Carter's Welsh issue, where we are talking about Telford and Wrekin, and all we want is a good hospital and a good National Health Service here in Telford. And wasn't sure what Councillor Nigel Dugmore was saying, but thank you for your contribution. And I appreciate that. And finally, Mr. Speaker, let's hope that we all support this motion unanimously, so I can write to the Prime Minister, David Cameron, to say this is how we feel in Telford and Wrekin, and this is the voice of the people. We are the representative, and we should raise these voices. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members,
Speaker, could I call for a recorded vote?
Recorded vote.
Call for a recorded vote. Well, I think technically we need about 8 of you to stand up. That's fine. Recorded vote. Members, you have the motion in front of you. It's been proposed. It's been seconded. We're going to move to a vote. It is a recorded vote. And ask Phil to go through it.
Councillor Keith Austin. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Steve Bentley. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Karen Blundell. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Fran Bold. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Stephen Burrell. So a vote for the motion. Councillor Eric Carter. Vote for the motion. Councillor Liz Clare. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Sean Davis. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Nigel Dugmore. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Andrew Eade. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Clive Elliott. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Arnold England. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Nathan England. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Ray Evans. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Ian Fletcher. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Jill Green. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Jane Greenaway. Vote for the motion. Councillor Kevin Guy. Vote for the motion. Councillor Miles Hoskin. Vote for the motion. Councillor Mike Iron. Vote for the motion. Councillor Amrik Jawar. Vote for the motion. Councillor Terry Kiernan. Vote for the motion. Councillor Jackie Loveridge. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Alan McKenzie. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Clive Mason. That's for the motion. Councillor Angela McClements. Vote for the motion. Councillor Bill McClements. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor John Minor. That's for the motion. Councillor. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So it's abstention. Yeah. Councillor Leon Murray. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Richard Overton. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Jane Pinter. That's for the motion. Councillor Gilly Reynolds. That's for the motion. Councillor Shirley Reynolds. That's for the motion. Councillor Hilda Rhodes. That's for the motion. Councillor Coldip Sahota. That's for the motion. Councillor Roy Scammell. That's for the motion. Councillor Peter Scott. That's for the motion. Councillor Jackie Seymour. That's an abstention. Councillor Rob Sloan. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Charles Smith. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Malcolm Smith. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Ken Stringer. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor John Thompson. That's a vote for the motion. Councillor Karen Tomlinson. Vote for the motion. Councillor Bill Tomlinson. That's for the motion. Councillor Chris Turley. That's for the motion. Councillor Paul Watling. That's for the motion. And Councillor Derek White is going to abstain as a member of scrutiny. Thank you.
Members, the motion is carried nearly unanimously. We're weeks away from an election. Peace, consensus, harmony. Bodes well, doesn't it? Okay, that's the end. Have a safe journey home. Thank you very much. Thank you.